We are just learning fingerprint comparisons made between prints collected at the scene of the Brian Thompson murder compared with prints taken in the arrest process of Luigi Mangione show a positive match. Two law enforcement officials briefed on the matter have just confirmed to CNN. We're going to have more on that in just a moment. Also this hour, Mangione is still behind bars in Pennsylvania after a judge denied him bail. Before his court appearance, that was yesterday, he yelled and struggled against officers once he turned and saw that the media was standing outside the courthouse. And police now say a notebook that they found on him has a so-called to-do list in it from before the killing, as well as a reported reference to deciding not to use a bomb to target the victim so he would not, quote unquote, kill innocents. Also new this morning, disturbing video of what appears to be wanted posters popping up around New York City for other health executives. All of this as the suspect's lawyer is now speaking out about offers they say they've received to pay from outside to pay for his legal fees.
Obviously, my client appreciates the support that he has, but I don't know. I'd have to look in, but it just doesn't sit right with me, really. The Supreme Court says, you know, all these rich billionaires can give all kind of money to candidates, and that's free speech. So maybe these people are exercising their right to free speech and saying that's the way they're supporting my client.
Joining us right now, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller, CNN Law Enforcement Contributor Steve Moore, also here with me. John, this is your new reporting, and this is a big deal. This is the first positive forensic match that we know of. Walk us through what you've learned.
So, fingerprints collected at the scene of the Thompson murder from a plastic water bottle, from a discarded cell phone, the so-called burner phone, have now been compared against the arrest fingerprints taken by police in Altoona of the suspect, and yesterday they were able to make a match to the prints that they collected at the scene. Not a surprise in some regard, in that they had an individual allegedly with a gun and a silencer and a mask and those things, but it is the first scientific forensic match that joins the growing pile of circumstantial evidence that they can say, well, how else would it be someone if that fingerprint is here and he's there with that gun and so on. Now, there's more, which is DNA evidence still pending, ballistic tests still pending. Part of that is because the gun was recovered in Pennsylvania. To match that to be the same gun, they would have to obtain it, fire it, test it, compare the shell casings and the bullets. But this is a big deal.
It is a big deal because, you know, to this point, that could be one of the things that you could hear from the suspect's attorney saying, you don't know if this is the guy. This wasn't me. We talked about this, right? Like, you could say this isn't me. There's a guy with a mask and this, whatever. But this is scientific connection, forensic connection between the two. Talk to me more about ballistics. Is it just a logistical kind of obstacle that needs to be overcome in order to get confirmation or not that the ballistics match, do you think? Or,
you know, the gun is actually the charge that they are holding him on in Pennsylvania. So that evidence needs to stay with him because, you know, they are the ones who have him in custody, and he has not waived extradition, which basically says, I'm not going to New York, where they would then turn over all that evidence to New York City and then have them do those tests. But they understand, you know, they are in it for the long game. They don't need to know that tomorrow or the next day, and it gives them more time to do the background investigation they're still doing, which includes mundane things, but very necessary things like completing the video canvas, tightening up that map where they can show a picture of him almost through every step of his New York journey.
I want to get to more of that, but Steve, let me bring you in on this, just the importance of what John Miller has learned about this fingerprint match.
Yeah, as we've learned, something can look like a slam dunk case, but a lawyer can find just niches or cracks in any kind of strong case. And what they're doing now is filling up the cracks. They're eliminated any doubt before they go to trial that this is the person who committed this crime. He's already fighting. He's already shown what he's going to do. He's going to fight every single motion, even a perfunctory extradition motion. So he isn't going to go quietly on this. So the police are obviously dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
For sure. And John, something that we've talked about, and I guess it still remains, there are so many questions that remain. And I'm wondering if this notebook that we're learning more about kind of adds to this picture is, how did this guy know that the CEO was going to be where he was going to be when he was?
So,
is that where the line of thinking is in investigating how we learn more about that?
there are clues. I mean, you know it because you've been by there, but that New York Hilton Hotel takes up, half of a full city block. Yeah. It has doors all the way down 53rd Street and all the way down 54th Street, and a front door and a rear driveway. That's like 20 entrances you would have to cover to know where is this guy going to enter the hotel. But you would also have to know, what if he is going to enter from this side because I have learned he's staying at the hotel across the street? How would you know that? He gives us an oblique reference in the 3-page note that we've loosely called the manifesto, where he says, this wasn't that difficult. It was a combination of social engineering and computer-assisted design, an engineer term, CAD he referred to it as. But I think what he's telling us there on the social engineering side is, this is what people do when they create an email, a spoof email or a phone call saying, I have a delivery, which, where do I bring that, posing as somebody else. He's suggesting that he learned intelligence information on his target by doing that kind of thing. But then when you get out of the note and into the spiral notebook, and he acknowledges this in the note as well. He said, my electronics you're going to find are pretty locked down, but in the spiral notebook you'll see to-do lists and other notes. Some of those notes are theoretical notes about targeting and what is the just way to commit such a crime. He talks about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and how if he modeled after him, a bomb in a shareholders conference could kill innocent people. Same on the street. But he talks about shooting being the more precise way to take on his target. In one line he says, and what better way to take out the CEO than to shoot him at his own, quote, bean counters conference.
Yeah, an investor conference is exactly what you could say that is.
Right.
And Steve, what do you think? There's so much that is coming out. I mean, this reporting from John is most significant about the forensic that they're now positively IDing. What questions do you have that remain now, Steve, and where you would say, leaning on your experience with the FBI, where you think this investigation focuses a lot of its energy now?
Well, you've got a lot of the basic building blocks of this case already being nailed down. What I'd want to do is shore up the areas where you don't have direct knowledge yet, or at least they haven't said they have direct knowledge of the shooter's actions. For instance, before a shareholders conference like this, they're going to be setting up for about a week. They're going to do rehearsals and speeches and stuff. I would want to know where he was. We have cameras and everything on the day of shooting, but I'd like to see cameras around the entrances and find out whether Thompson did the same thing for several mornings, or whether maybe somebody in the hotel actually provided him information. I suspect he went a week early, and I suspect he was doing canvassing and surveillance that entire time.
It's interesting when you talk about that, because that's the backward building of this video canvas. He comes in on the 24th. That's like 10 days before the actual shooting. And where they have tracked him is he comes out of the Port Authority bus terminal and does not go to check into the hostel where he's going to stay. He goes straight with all of his bags to the Hilton Hotel, and he starts doing those walkarounds. but they also have him in a McDonald's, which we now know, I guess, was his preference for hanging out.
I was going to say his preferred stop along the way, for sure. John, thanks for running up and giving us the new reporting. Steve, thank you as always. It's good to see you.